This is the Voice Over Marketing Podcast, episode number 48.
My wish for you is to dream big dreams, have big goals, have a small waist, but dream big dreams.
And this episode of the Voice Over Marketing Podcast is sponsored by the voiceoverathlete.com. You can go there to find out all kinds of good posts that I've put up there about how to deflame your way through your diet, reduce inflammation. You can see some videos on how to relax your eyes after spending a day in front of a computer screen, some breathing exercises, and many, many more things to come on the voiceoverathlete.com. And also, we are sponsored by the book Voice Over Legal by Rob Siglampaglia. You don't think you need this book? Here's a question for you. Have you ever been asked to do a celebrity impression for a commercial? If you have, you might want to think twice, unless you live in a particular state. You can find out why impersonations can be a problem and why you could get sued if you do one, and which state is exempt from all of that on page 28 of the Voice Over Legal book. Now, we've arranged a discount for you to save up to $5. That's up to 20% off the list price of the book, and you can support the podcast at the same time. If you're a voice artist and you're treating your business as a business, you need this book. Just go to voiceoverlegal.com. When you go to voiceoverlegal.com, enter the promo code VMP at checkout to save $5 off the cost of the book. That's promo code V as in voice, M as in marketing, and P as in podcast at checkout to save $5 off the cost of the book, and you'll support the podcast at the same time. Thanks. And now back to the show. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Voice Over Marketing Podcast. My name is John Melly, and this is the podcast dedicated to teaching in-depth and advanced marketing strategies for people in the voiceover and audio production professions. My goal is to help you make more money by showing you ways to leverage your time, charge more for your talents, and allow you to spend more time doing the things you want to do in your life. Hey there, it's John. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I do appreciate it. Just going back to the Voice Over Legal book that I mentioned a few minutes ago, John Florian wanted me to thank everyone who's ordered the Voice Over Legal book through the podcast. We've had a number of people ordering the book, so he wanted me to express his gratitude and thank you. He helped Rob Siglampaglia publish the Voice Over Legal book, so the orders go through there, and he just wanted me to thank everybody for ordering. It's a great book. You definitely want to get it. Also, speaking of John Florian, I may have mentioned it in last week's episode, but he invited me to do a webinar on the concept of the voiceover athlete that I discuss at voiceoverathlete.com. That webinar is going to be in early December, and more information about how you can register for that webinar will be coming up later this month, later in September this year. But the webinar will be in early December, so we'll give you more information about that down the road. The number of downloads. This is exciting. We've had, as of this recording, 52,950 downloads of the various odd and sundry episodes of the Voice Over Marketing Podcast. I'm honored that we have had that much reach. That's for me, that's really, really cool. I have a goal. I want to get up to 100,000 downloads by the end of 2016. Do you think we can do it? Will you help me do that? Share this with your fellow voiceover colleagues, voiceover and audio production colleagues. That will help out a lot. So it's back to school time. People are heading back to school. Some have already gone back in mid-August, and some are just getting back to school after Labor Day. And when I was a kid, we never went to school before Labor Day. It was always after Labor Day. And I've seen these pictures on Facebook from different friends about their kids going off to school. And it's like in mid-August, and I'm thinking, oh, no! Going back to school in August. Maybe they got out earlier, but we always got out in late June, mid to late June, depending on the number of snow days we had in Massachusetts growing up. But going back to school in August just doesn't sound right to me. I don't know about you. I just, the thought of it. The inner child in me goes, no, and all the back to school ads and everything like that. But, September is kind of like it's kind of like a mini January. It's like hitting the reset button again, right? It's like, okay, summer's over, back into the routine. And so September is off and running, and everybody's, the traffic's back. And if you live in the Boston area, you know what I'm going to be talking about. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting a college or university in the Boston area. And for all you cat lovers out there, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. It's just an expression. At any rate, we have a lot of kids coming into Boston, the metro Boston area, to go to school. And for a lot of them, they've never been here before. They're from out of state or out of the country, and they don't know our roads. And we have this one road, it's called Sturrow Drive, and it has these bridges. And the Sturrow Drive runs along the Charles River, and there are roads that cross over Sturrow Drive and bridge over to cross over from Boston into Cambridge, and it runs along the Charles River. So there are these bridges. So when those occur, Sturrow Drive actually goes underneath the roads, and there are all these height restrictions. And invariably, somebody drives a rental truck and it gets stuck under these bridges. It tears the roof off of a U-Haul and backs up traffic for miles. And it happens every year, a few times every year. And it's like we all start taking bets with the traffic reporters at this station. Okay, when do you think the first one's going to hit? And you just stay away from that area until a week after Labor Day, because it's just going to happen. There are signs everywhere. They even have a sign hanging from chains so that if you get on the road and the truck is too tall, it's going to hit the sign hanging from the chains. But I don't think the message sinks in. They go, oh, I don't know what the heck that was, and they keep on driving. And then invariably, they get stuck. They have signs everywhere saying, low clearance. If you're in a truck, get off here. And it happens every year, at least 3 or 4 times. And you don't want to be that guy. Everybody just stays away from it. It's also one of the main routes into Fenway Park. So when the Red Sox are in town, there's always a lot of traffic anyway, and some kid comes along, clips the top of the truck off under these bridges, and just backs everybody up, and they're late for the baseball game, and they're really ticked off. Just a little bit of what's going on here in the Boston area. The kids are back in school. All right, moving on from all that nonsense. I don't know why I wanted to share that with you, but I did. Couple of shout outs for you. First of all, big shout out to Austin Beals. Austin, thank you for your feedback and for listening to the podcast and for your reply to the voiceover athlete email. I read that, and thank you for sharing all of that information. I'll have to check out that yellow nightlight to read by in the evening. Also, good luck with starting your voiceover career. Any of the resources that we can give to you here at the Voiceover Marketing Podcast, please take advantage of them here. And thanks for listening. Also want to thank David Lasauskas. David has been a longtime loyal listener of the podcast. He was one of the first people to join the Voiceover Marketing Podcast group on Facebook, but he also purchased the Personal Story Marketing Package. So, David, I want to thank you for doing that and supporting the podcast. David has a really cool lifestyle, and he's got a really cool voiceover business. And I've reached out to him because I want to get, David, if you're listening, I want you on this podcast to talk about your lifestyle and your voiceover business. I'm not going to talk any more than that. If you know David, you know what I'm talking about. But if you don't, he's got it figured out. This looks cool. And so I want to get him on the podcast in the future. Hopefully we can set that up. But thank you for your generosity and support, David. I really appreciate it. And for all the other folks who've reached out and joined the Voiceover Marketing Podcast group on Facebook and LinkedIn, thank you. We're just under 1,000 members on the Facebook group. That's really, really cool. So thank you very much. My guest today is none other than Rodney Saulsberry. Rodney has been on the podcast before, but he's always got some really cool information to share, always working on some new projects, and always a valued guest. So let's get right to that conversation with Rodney, okay? Thanks. Well, welcome back. As I mentioned in the first part of the episode, my guest today is none other than the ubiquitous Rodney Saulsberry. And the reason why I say you're ubiquitous, Rodney, is your voice is literally everywhere. Listeners of the podcast know who you are, but for new listeners, just quickly run down a few things. Rodney is one of the premier voiceover talents in the country. He's also a published author with 3 best-selling books titled You Can Bank on Your Voice, Step Up to the Mic, and your new book, Rodney, is Tongue Twisters and Vocal Warm-Ups, and we'll talk about that today. But Rodney's voice is literally everywhere. He's announced promos for the ABC hit Dancing with the Stars and ABC's critically acclaimed Charlie Brown Christmas specials. He announced the 34th NAACP Image Awards and the Essence Awards specials on Fox TV, the Grammy Awards and Country Music Awards for CBS. He's a top trailer voice in the business. He's voiced trailers for Red Tails, Tupac Resurrection, How Stella Got Her Groove Back, and many, many more. And his promo voice can be heard on ESPN, NFL networks, NBC, HBO, Showtime, CNN, and the BBC. Literally alphabet soup of the networks, Rodney.
That's right, John. I like that. Yeah.
You've been on this podcast before, so it's great to have you back. How have you been?
I have been great, John, and I am so glad to be back because your podcast is one of the biggest out there, let me tell you.
Thank you.
I still get responses from being on your podcast the last time that I was, and I really appreciate you having me. And I want to say that I appreciate what you're doing for the voiceover community in general. By having this podcast, you are putting so much great information out there. You've got great guests, and of course, you're a great host. And I really appreciate you having me back.
Oh, thank you, Rodney. That's great. It means a lot for someone of your caliber in the voiceover industry to hear that. You know, I mentioned all of the things that you've been on, and I know since you sent me that quick sheet, you've done many, many other projects. You're successful, obviously, because you're very, very talented, and you've worked on your craft. But you've also got a great marketing mindset. So this didn't happen by accident. Could you share with us a little bit how you have developed and nurtured your marketing mindset? Because I've seen it, I've noticed it, and then what you do to carry it on into the different things, because this business is changing so much. Before the episode we were chatting, there's so much happening in the voiceover industry, and what you do to stay current with it all.
I think that's a great question, John. I think what I did long ago, and I talked about it in the first book that I wrote, You Can Bank on Your Voice, it was a situation where I realized that it wasn't enough to be able to do voiceovers and to have talent. It wasn't enough to be a hard worker and someone that was on time for the job and who followed direction and gave the client exactly what they wanted. All of those things are very important. Mm-hmm. But it's also very important to establish a brand. And look at yourself like a Fortune 500 company. You are the CEO of your brand, of your company, and you have to realize that early on, and you have to do things to make other people realize that, so that not only is the client coming back to you because you do good work, but the public is starting to know you too, and they're excited when you're on a project. And the way that they find out is by way of emails, by way of social media, by way of you picking up the phone and talking to different people that can spread the word. There are a million different ways to get yourself out there, and it is important today to use those vehicles to promote yourself, because everybody knows it. Your competition knows it, so they're all doing it. Mm-hmm. So you will be left behind. You will be left in the dust if you're not on Twitter, if you're not on Facebook, if you're not on Instagram, if you are not doing things to promote your talent and what it is that you have to offer to the industry.
Right. You said a couple of interesting things that I want to just kind of dive in a little bit more. You mentioned the brand and treating yourself as a Fortune 500 company. I think I know what your brand is. You're the voice of choice. Is that is that your brand?
That's one of them.
Okay.
I've been the voice of choice for behind-the-scene narration.
Yeah.
I've been A1 voice. But I decided that my brand was going to be me. And so I made sure, and a lot of people are against this kind of thing, but I just decided long ago that you were going to associate my face with my voice, my face with my name, my face with my website. And so a lot of my branding is based on myself and me and my image. So not only do you have my voice, but you have my image. And some of those things that you talk about, for instance, the voice of choice for behind-the-scene narration was something that was given to me by someone else. Sometimes other people will put a name on you, okay?
Yeah.
It's always been said that Michael Jackson was the self-acclaimed king of pop. And that's okay, too, because he decided, I think I read that he really was impressed with Elvis Presley, and Elvis Presley was the king of rock and roll. So he decided he wanted to be the king of pop. And so he got that going. But there are some times when a person writing an article on you will put a name on you that will stick. And that voice of choice for behind-the-scenes narration, that came out in a magazine. I think it was 1998 or something like that. It was Black Enterprise magazine that put that name on me. And those kinds of things stick, and as long as it's a positive moniker, it's okay.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah. You can. Well, it's interesting because it's the nice thing about having other people's perspective, because sometimes you can be too close to something and not see it. And
exactly.
like what you said, when somebody else can see something, and if it's positive, you say, hey, I like that. I'm going to use that.
Exactly. I mean, getting back to the Michael Jackson analogies and comparisons, he was not happy with the Wacko Jacko that they put on him.
Right.
And you have to, again, being in touch with your brand, he would battle that with the king of pop.
Right.
So, but you have to be aware of what's going on out there about you. You have to be in touch with it. And I also believe in being in control. I try to make sure that all the images that are out there and everything that is out there, I've got my finger on it, or my representatives have their finger on it. So be careful with that. A lot of people like to take pictures and do things and post things without your consent. And then, of course, you have, what is this thing where people can actually Photoshop? They can actually Photoshop you into situations, right? So just be real careful with your image and your brand. Make sure that you own it. And ownership is very important, too. Make sure that you own things that represent you, that you have complete ownership over it. When you do your website, a lot of people are coming up with all these different names, but make sure that you own your own name, because I've had friends that are successful in this business, and I won't say their names, but what happened was they became successful, and they forgot to have ownership of their own name, and somebody else bought it, okay?
Yeah.
And they had to pay them to get their own name back. They went to do a website with their name and found out that their name was not available. Somebody had already owned that domain. And then you have to negotiate big money, the bigger star that you are, to get your own name back. So it's all right to have all these different kinds of names, but make sure you have ownership of your own name. Do that right away.
Yep, that's really, really good advice. That is excellent advice. You talk about control and owning in terms of controlling your image, your brand. Is that what you meant by treating yourself as a Fortune 500 company? Could you expand on that too?
Okay, well, that's one of the things I meant. But the other thing that I meant is that so many times as entertainers and also athletes, anything that's in the business of entertaining people, we tend not to think that we are equal to the 9-to-5er. We tend to think that we are not equal to people who put in 8 hours every day, who maybe punch in, to a time clock. We think everything is kind of loosey-goosey, but it's not. This is a business.
Right.
So the fact that the word business is incorporated into your everyday being as a voiceover artist will change everything for you. you have to realize that it's a business. I mean, let's face it, you're paying taxes on money that you're paid. A lot of things that happen to the 9 to 5er are happening to you. So you need to treat yourself like that. You know, you need to be accountable. And not only do you need to have control and ownership of your image, you have to do everything on time, and you have to keep record of it. You have to keep good books. Everything that the average Joe that wakes up in the morning and does, you have to do that too, and you have to think like that. Just because your schedule is a little more flexible, just because you are an entrepreneur, doesn't mean that you're not running a business. All right? You have to treat it like a business.
That's great advice. And part of running a business is marketing.
Yes.
And so you talked about social media, the voiceover business, how it's changing. How much do you devote in terms of time? And it may vary, I understand, but how much do you devote to marketing?
I devote a lot of time to marketing.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the reasons is because I'm selling product. Mm-hmm. And so are you. Again, when I say so are you, I'm speaking to the audience out there.
Yep.
So are you, because you're selling your voice. And so because I'm selling, I have to pay attention to marketing, and I have to pay attention to making things sell. When you are an entrepreneur and you have product in the market, things are happening 24/7. Okay, they're happening every day.
Yeah.
Somebody's buying one of my 3 books on Sunday. Somebody's buying it on Sunday night. Somebody's buying it at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. And so because things are revolving and evolving around the clock, I have to be on top of that. I'm able to go online and see sales. Right now, while we're talking, I could click on my computer and go to a place that tells me exactly what's happening.
Right.
So if things are fluid like that, how can I not be fluid in my paying attention to social media, in my paying attention to what's happening around my brand? When we think about people like Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs, one of the reasons that he was so successful is that he was always on top of it. There is not a time that I am not working or thinking about getting the next job or thinking about how things that I have out there are doing. Now, don't get me wrong. We have to take time for family.
Right.
Family is most important. Love for your family. Your health is so important. We have to talk about your health. If I'm not healthy, I can't do anything.
Right.
So those things are priority. But after that, we have to get to the career, the branding of the career, and being the best that we can be. I also can't rest on my laurels. I can't be so involved in social media that I'm not practicing my craft. And this is why I came up with books like the last book, Tongue Twisters and Vocal Warm-Ups, so that you can have a chance to practice your craft too. So you can go over these tongue twisters so that the dexterity and the articulation and the pronunciation and all the things that you need to be great on that voiceover, I give you a chance to practice those things with my Tongue Twisters and Vocal Warm-Ups book.
When I took your course, we did a bunch of those as part of your promo trailer course. And I liken things like that almost when a baseball player is on deck to go up to bat and they put a weight on the end of the bat and swing it. It's almost like a weight on a bat to get the swing so that when you actually step up to perform, it's easier.
Man, what an analogy. I love that analogy. I love that. It's so true.
Yeah.
When you see the basketball players stretching, when you see them shooting foul shots and they're constantly shooting shots and someone is getting the ball out of the rim and passing it back to them.
Yeah.
Repetition. When we practice, it becomes habitual. And then when you step up to the plate or when you step up to the mic.
Hey, that's a good book there.
Yeah, that's my second book.
I know.
When you step up to the mic, you're ready.
Right.
Okay? And I love the analogy, too, because by putting that weight on the bat and making it heavier, when you swing the light bat, when it's time to get up to bat, you're getting it around quicker to hit that fastball. When you practice the hard tongue twister, you're better on the copy because it's nowhere near as hard as the tongue twister you warmed up with.
Right.
All right. And here's another great thing about the book. I get specific to genres. For instance, if you're about to audition with promo copy, or if you're about to do an actual promo job, I have promo tongue twisters and promo vocal warm-ups. If you're about to do a trailer, I have trailer vocal warm-ups. If you are about to just do a commercial, or let's say you're about to do, this is something that's really hot right now. Different genres are hot at different times.
Okay.
The hot genre right now is audiobook. Everybody's getting into audiobooks. Well, I have something called spoken word tongue twisters, and it's a lot of words. It's long, like you have to do when you read audiobooks. And you can warm up with my spoken word tongue twisters and get ready for your reading of an audiobook.
That's smart. That's very, very easy for me to say. Maybe I should take your book out. Anyway, no, that's really smart how you've niched all those to the different VO genres. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
Yeah. I wanted to step back a little bit to the branding, and then we can talk more about the book and some of the other things that you have coming up. You made a conscious decision, and it went counter to a lot of the conventional wisdom of the voiceover industry in that you associated your picture with your brand and your voiceover business. Tell me about the thinking that went behind that, because I want to make a point, but I want to see if we're on the same page here. But go ahead and talk to me about the thinking behind that and why you decided to say, you know what, I'm going to do this.
Well, I think what happened is a lot of times people are afraid to show age.
Okay.
They're afraid to show ethnicity. They may not like the way that they look, and think that someone may judge them from that point of view. But I am a firm believer that we can hear everything in the voice. For instance, I am long past doing voiceovers for 20-year-olds or teenagers, okay?
Yeah.
There is a maturity in my voice that can't be denied. And it comes with my maturity in life. It comes with my experiences that are appropriate to my age. These things can be heard. So I would be crazy to be trying to market myself as someone that was going to be reading young copy for, let's say, the hip-hop generation or something like that. So once I'm honest with myself, I'm no longer afraid to reveal my whole self. And I think there's enough out there for me, and I think that anybody doing voiceovers, all the genres, there's enough out there for you. Now, when I talk about the sound of your voice and age appropriate, in animation, we do know that women do teenage boys.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they voice them constantly, regardless of what their age is. And I think that is the one exception. But I think for the most part, and there are probably some gentlemen too out there that can really get young, and sometimes we find them. You know what? I take that back. I'm gonna stand on pretty much the women that are doing the kids are the ones that get past the age barrier.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think you can hear everything. I believe that you can hear it. So I'm not afraid to have my image out there. And I want you to see me. I want you to know what you're getting. All right? And that's why I made the choice. But I do know that people are advised quite often, and I respect that too. Whatever your opinion is and whatever you decide to do, I totally respect it and understand it.
Right.
But for me, I felt like the image was important. I wanted you to know the whole package that you're getting.
That makes sense. Yeah, and it's working for you.
Yes.
Obviously. So that's great. So I want to ask a question, and you can feel free to answer it or say, yeah, I'm not going to answer that, John. I'm wondering, just because you're so focused, and you mentioned a couple of other things, aside from voiceover, family, health, loving your family. What's your morning routine like? Can you share that with us?
Yes, my morning routine, I get up quite early. I'm up at 5 o'clock, and I have a few clients that I've been working with for years that I'm on the microphone around 6. Sometimes I'm on at 5:30, and I work around the world, so I'm working with people in England, for instance. I'm working with people in Ireland. And so I'll do some early voiceovers, and then I'm off to Starbucks. And, I'll grab like a tea, like I like the black tea lemonade.
Yeah, I knew you were a tea drinker.
Yeah, I'm a tea drinker, and sometimes I will drink some green tea. And then I'm off to the gym. And I'll do like the treadmill or the Stairmaster or the bike. And then I'm back here doing some more sessions that happen later, and I'm dealing with the East Coast usually at that point. And then as the time goes on, I'm dealing with the West Coast. And then I also teach. So I may have a point where I'm on the phone or I'm on Skype teaching. And then there are the things that happen for voiceover artists that we don't know. A lot of times I know that I have a session, but a lot of times a session will just pop up. And that could be a network, or that could be a commercial, that could be anything. But usually when they just pop up like that, it's a network type situation, whether it be a big network or it be something smaller, an affiliate. So you do those kinds of things. And then sometimes I'm looping, meaning ADR, and I will have to go to a studio. Now, I usually know about that. Those things don't pop up.
Right.
And I could be there a short time just doing a voice. Like, let's say I'm doing a Sam Jackson. And what happens is they don't bring Sam Jackson in to clean up a track that he may have shot at an airport. And some lines sort of got drowned out because it's noisy in the airport. Well, I will come in and match his voice and put those words in. Or let's say I'm sanitizing a track where someone has used profanity.
Right.
Well,
okay.
I'll come in and I'll do that. And I tend to do like Sam Jackson, Morgan Freeman. These are guys that I do quite often. Sometimes Denzel, I will come in and put my voice into the track. And then if it's a full loop day, that's where they have me for 8 hours, and I will go and, it could be Paramount, Warner Brothers. I'm going to be going to Warner Brothers tomorrow, for instance, to do a session. And I work on some of my favorite shows. I don't know if you're familiar with the show called Power.
Yep.
I love the show, and it's great when I get a chance to loop it. Roots, there's been a new television show, a series, Roots.
Oh, you're in that?
Yeah, so there are various things, but it's all, and then don't forget I sing too.
I know you do.
So,
yeah.
So I might end up doing a singing session. So the day is full of something that has to do with my voice and something that has to do with me marketing my voice. Now, in between all of that is the marketing end.
Yeah.
On my cell phone, on my computer, etc. I'm tweeting, putting things on Instagram, putting things on Facebook.
You're using social media to market quite a bit. Before we started the recording for this episode, you were talking about how you're working Twitter quite a bit. Could you talk to us a little bit about that, what you're doing? Or?
Well, different things work for different people. I have people that say to me, Twitter does not work for them at all. Yeah. And they have no handle on Twitter. And speaking of handles, mine is at Rod Talks. Rod Talks, RODTALKS. And some people tell me that Facebook is great and that you actually can pay for Facebook advertising. Right. And I've tried that a couple of times, but I really couldn't put my finger on it. I really didn't know if it was working for me. Mm-hmm. And then people talk about paying for Google maybe you know what I'm trying to say here.
AdWords.
I forget it. There you go.
Yeah.
Google AdWords. I've done that too.
Yep.
Didn't work for me, but it does work for people. I just find that Twitter, let's think about Twitter. See, if you look around, and this is why I always encourage people to get outside of the voiceover business and realize that everything outside of the voiceover business applies to you in the voiceover business because it's a business.
Amen.
All right. So if we think like that, John,
yeah.
let's get into, without talking about who we're voting for or whatever, or what our political affiliation is, let's just get into what the candidates are doing with it. Donald Trump is just, wow. Everything he says is right there on Twitter.
Right.
And Hillary is using it too. And Twitter is just, everybody's checking it out. All right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, why wouldn't you want to jump in there too and talk about what you have to offer?
Right.
Now, you might say to yourself, well, they're listening to Donald Trump and they're caring about what Hillary has to say. No one cares about what I have to say. That's not true. You aren't the only person that is interested in voiceovers. You aren't the only person that is interested in commercials, right?
Right.
A whole lot of people are, and they are on Twitter. So it's a fast-moving thing that is here to stay for a while, and everybody is using it to get their messages across.
Put yourself in the stream of opportunity is basically how I like to put that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Put yourself in the stream of opportunities. That's great. I like that.
Cool.
And so that's obviously the happening market, right?
Right.
If Facebook were bigger, they would put everything on Facebook. If Instagram were bigger, they would post everything on Facebook. And I'm talking about the movers and shakers. What are they using? And they are using those social media spots too, don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, to me, Twitter at this point is king. Now, when we get into other things that the younger demographic, the millennials, are paying attention to, they're paying attention to Twitter. They're getting into Snapchat, Periscope, but I haven't gone there yet, but I'm going to take a peek because I am always going to try to see where is the best place to go to get my brand across.
Yeah, that's smart. A couple episodes back, I talked about some survey results of just that. I surveyed the members of the Voice Over Marketing podcast group on Facebook. We have almost 1,000 members there now. And I put out 3 questions. One was, what different social media platforms are you on? A different question was, how do you search for voiceover? With some options there. And the third one was, what type of episodes were people interested in, like solo episodes or interview episodes? And the results were kind of interesting. If people want to hear that, they can go back to episode 45. It was interesting to see. Obviously, it was skewed toward Facebook because the survey was on Facebook. So I kind of knew that was going to happen. But I asked about Vines. That one was like the 6-second video type thing. And nobody was on that. But Instagram was like the 3rd or 4th option after LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. So that was interesting information for me. So yeah, I totally get with, and everybody knows that these social media platforms is one's the hot one, right now. Something will replace Facebook and Twitter down the road, but
exactly.
That's the job of staying current on that.
And I'm very interested in Facebook, and I'm very interested in Instagram. And I do a lot on Instagram, and I do a lot on Facebook. But I want to explore it more based on what you just said. I want to check it out. iTunes, how can we forget that?
Right.
Your podcast is on iTunes, right?
Right, absolutely, yeah. Stitcher, other places as well. You know what?
And when you think about Amazon, boy, have they cornered the market on books. And this ACX thing now is just huge. Audible.com.
Right, owned by Amazon.
There you go.
Yeah. You said just what I was going to say. Go ahead.
No, well, if you can't beat them, join them.
Right.
I mean, like with my books, for instance, my first book, I was in warehouses. I had my national distribution. You could walk into a Barnes and Noble And I'm self-published. And I'll never forget a story where I was with a friend of mine who was actually with a big-time publisher, Simon & Schuster. There you go, Simon & Schuster. And we were at one of these places like the Grove or something like that. We were passing a Barnes & Noble. And he said, yeah, let's go in here and see if our books are in here. Trust me, Simon & Schuster is huge, so who wouldn't want to be with Simon & Schuster?
Right.
But there were my books. You Can Bank on Your Voice and Step Up to the Mic, and we couldn't find a copy of his. And there were my books right there in Barnes & Noble. And I thought, wow, I'm self-published, and here I am. So anybody can do it if they have a good product and if they're pushing it properly. Mm-hmm. Now, you can't do that now with my latest book because I decided to let it be a book that would only be made when someone bought it.
Right.
So now I'm not paying for storage. I'm not paying if books don't sell, they don't come back to some place and I have to pay. The book doesn't get printed until you buy it. Print on demand, I guess you could call it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. You know, this book is as big as You Can Bank on Your Voice was. This book is even bigger.
Excellent.
And I don't mind giving what I'm giving to Amazon because they have a machine. They have a machine that gets it to everybody, and that's how people want to buy their product these days. And if you walk into Barnes & Noble, you can still ask them for my book, and they will order it for you. Or you can order it on your own online. Mm-hmm. So that's what's happening right now. It's all about your smartphone. My smartphone is on my TV now. Have you noticed that? I mean, it's just nuts.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
I mean,
how easy things are, and this is out there for everybody, not just me. You just have to be an entrepreneur, and you have to be ready to work hard. You got to work hard.
Yeah. Like you said, you want to own things. So you want to own your name. You own the assets of the book. But at the same time, why reinvent the wheel? Why try and build your own bookstore or something like that if Amazon's done the work for you, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they get the checks out very quickly, you know, monthly, that they owe you. And they've got the process. They've got the market. And with you having ownership, let's say you decided, I don't want to do it that way anymore. You can pull it out. You can say, I'm not on Amazon anymore. I'm over here now. But all of these opportunities are out there, and you're crazy if you're not taking advantage of it. Another thing, too, the podcast.
Yeah.
When you see a lot of people with podcasts, that means that the podcast is a good thing.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah, and I love the podcasting. And, the thing is that, like you, I'm watching trends, and I'm seeing that, and you just mentioned how nuts it is, but cars are becoming rolling smartphones. You're going to have in your dashboard, you're going to have access to all the content that's on the internet. And
that's right.
The radio monopoly, I think... It's just read a survey that not a lot of people know what to do with smart cars. I think they're calling them now. Not the brand smart car in terms of like that little lawnmower that people are driving on highways, but cars with iTunes and all that in the dashboard. There's a significant number of people who don't even know that it's there. Some people are like, I don't know what to do with it. And then there are the early adapters, but it's or adopters. That percentage is like 28%, I think I recall reading. But that's only going to grow over time. I mean, as more and more people move into the car buying market, as the younger folks move into buying cars, it's just going to become, they're going to go to it more because they're just, I watched my nephew, and I mean, at the age of 3, he knew how to use an iPad. I mean, it was scary, it's just so intuitive. But at any rate, so I'm watching that, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing the podcast, because I want a place in that space, So anyway, that's good.
And it's a lot of fun, John.
It is.
And I think that's important too. Let's include that when we talk about things that should happen, the family and love and good health and faith in God and just being a good person. Outside of that, we need to have fun.
Right.
We need to have fun. That's really important. It's got to be fun. If it's not fun, it's not fun.
Right. Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to have fun, and it's just a lot of fun. Just all the different things that you're doing, all the things that you're making happen. Trying to be your own boss if you can. And let's say you do this on a part-time basis where, of course, you have a boss in your 9 to 5. But now when you get home and on the weekends, you're able to be your own boss with your own projects. And we all have something to offer. You know, we're talking about voiceover now, but you may find that you are a great fisherman or you sew clothes well. And you know how to do a special stitch when you sew. And you might want to teach someone that. And you can do it.
Yep.
You can do it.
And someone wants it. Someone wants to buy it, yeah.
Exactly.
So you mentioned coaching a little bit as part of your day. Talk to us about your coaching. I know you've got this organization called the Consultants Club. Talk to us about that and what some of the things you might cover in that club.
Well, the Consultants Club is great. I mean, it's my baby. I wanted to come up with something that was affordable for more people. Private lessons. When I talk about my day and all that I'm trying to do, if I'm going to give up an hour or more or some hours to someone else, I'm going to have to charge them for that.
Sure.
When I think about my rates, I'm $150 for 30 minutes, $300 for an hour. And so that's expensive. So I said, how can I reach more people? So I came up with the Consultants Club. And what happens is, right now, it's gone up. It started out at one time as $59.95, but now I'm $79.95 per 30 minutes. So you get 30 minutes with me monthly. I'll send you a workbook full of scripts by way of email, and I will coach you. Some people like to work by way of Skype, so we'll do Skype. But most of us are on the phone. We do it on the phone. And then there's also an hour call that comes with your $79.95 a month where I talk with someone, a special guest. I speak for 30 minutes with them, and then I open it up to the Consultants Club. Or I teach for the whole hour. And so that's what you get for your $79.95. And I have had many students now that have gone on to be successful. I've had this club for about 3 years now. And when my students work, I vicariously am working through them. And so I love to see success. And some people don't do the script. Some people just want to talk. Some people talk about branding for the 30 minutes. You give me 3 dates and 3 times that you're available, and I choose one. And we do our 30 minutes. And some people just want to talk, in general about the business. And so we do that. It's a great camaraderie. Many people network that are within the club and help each other. And it's just a really nice thing. So I encourage people out there and I also encourage you when you first start, I always say to people, hey, hang out for 3 months and see how it works. And, of course, I've had people that started out with those 3 months and went on for the 3 years that I've been in existence. So it's just my way of giving back and helping more people learn about this great business and have a chance to make a living, have fun making a living. It's something that you really want to do. And the opportunities are so good. I mean, if you happen to be a union member and you're getting residuals for a commercial that comes on, you can make a lot of money. If you're non-union and you have a big non-union career, that's possible too. You're not enjoying residuals, but you're doing enough work that's non-union and it's cumulative, and you are being good to your clients, so they're coming back to you for more work. And I know some people who are making a great living that way too. I am a union man. I wish it all was union because now you have something and someone to fight for you. You have union dues. You have health and welfare. You have retirement funds.
Right.
So I encourage the young performer to try to be a part of the union. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and now it's SAG-AFTRA too, so it's even bigger.
That's right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Pearls of Wisdom from Rodney.
Yeah.
and you've got an event coming up later in September, correct?
I do. On September 24th, I'm teaching a 4-hour workshop. It's called a Commercial Intensive Voiceover Workshop, where I will cover various genres, and you will get a chance to go to the mic and be directed by me. I'm only taking 10 students, and I'm in the process now of needing 2 more. So we've got 8, and I need 2 more, so you better jump on that. Yeah. And it's going to be at a place called Voice Tracks West in Studio City, California.
Nice.
And people travel from all over. I used to teach in L.A. about twice a year, but I haven't been doing that, and it's been a couple of years since I've done it because I've been on the road. Again, people following me through social media. I've been to Atlanta a couple of times at that great
VO Atlanta,
conference.
Yeah,
VO Atlanta, and I was just recently at the Midwest Voiceover Conference, and that was my second time there, second year in a row. So I've been to various things around the country, and there are enough of those kinds of things popping up. I've just done my big teaching, my workshop teaching in those scenarios. But people have been wanting me to do this again because I used to do it so often. Because people like to travel to Los Angeles. You know, you can come and do other things here. You got Universal and Disneyland and the weather, you know.
Yeah.
So people come here, take my class, and do some other things too. In fact, it's a funny thing. My classes through the years would consist of more people from out of town than from right here in California.
Oh, really?
So it's very interesting. So people book themselves into hotels, and I offer that too on my website, hotels that are close to the studio that have reasonable rates. In fact, they're within walking distance. So make sure that you take a look at that too.
That's great. That's great. And that's on September 24th?
Saturday, September 24th from 10 to 2. Bring your sticks so that you can get a copy of all your times up on the microphone, where you will read promo copy, learn how to interpret promo copy, narration, a commercial, animation, video games. All of those types of scripts will be gone over, and you will learn the rules and the different interpretation laws for each genre.
All right. If people want to learn more about that, and like you said, you only have 2 of them left, 2 spots open, but if people want to learn more about that event, where should they go?
Just go to my website at rodneysaulsberry.com. rodneysaulsberry.com. That's RODNEY. S like in Sam, AULSBERRY. rodneysaulsberry.com.
Right. And I just want the listeners to know that I'm not making anything as a result of this event that Rodney's having. It's a good event, so if you can take advantage of it, do it. I took a course with you, and I had a blast and learned an awful lot, and that was many years ago. But I just want to disclose to everybody that the Voiceover Marketing Podcast is not making anything on that recommendation. So go ahead and check that out. That's great.
Thank you so much for putting it out there and letting them know that your podcast is not making anything from it. And the bottom line is, it's only $2.95 too. Let me say that.
Oh, okay.
Again, I always try to be affordable. I don't do this just for the money. I do it because I love to teach. This is something that we could subtract from my everyday life. You asked me about my day, for instance.
Right.
And it would free me up maybe to do more work myself. But I get great gratification from teaching. I just love it.
I understand that feeling. I really do. That's one of the reasons why I like the podcast. I get some really nice, thoughtful emails or messages or comments. So some of them are quite touching, and it's a neat feeling to know that you've impacted someone's life for the better.
Right.
And until you've done that and experienced it, I don't know if people understand it, but I totally get where you're coming from. Because you're giving up a Saturday. You could be spending that with your family or working, getting a VO gig. So
that's right.
Yeah, it's not all about the money. It's a lot of fun. That's great.
Yeah.
So, Rodney, you have been very generous with your time. We talked a little bit about tongue twisters and vocal warm-ups, and you did a great job of breaking that up into different genres. And the tongue twisters and warm-ups are specific for each genre. How many tongue twisters and warm-ups have you got in this book?
Wow, you know what? I've never counted them.
Oh, okay.
Let me just say this, though. We have some favorites that people know. I joke about people don't say hello to me when they meet me in person anymore.
No.
They extend their hand and say things like, why in the world would a well want water? When a well wants water, will a well run dry? Why in the world would a wet well want wet water? Will a wet well want wet water when a wet well runs dry? Right. And then they'll go into another one, you know.
Taste test
and
the
so
tep and tea.
we have some, we have some favorites there.
Yeah.
And then we have the new ones that, you know, when I was trying to write things around genres and so forth, I don't know. I never counted them.
It's okay.
I just know that. Oh, and you know where I write them, John? It's so funny. I write them on planes.
Oh, okay.
I write my tongue twisters on airplanes, and I love it. That's how I do it.
That's cool. Leveraging your time again.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, that's fantastic. And they can get that on Amazon, and also you can bank on your voice and step up to the mic on Amazon, and we can put...
Yeah, everything's on Amazon. It's also on Barnes & Noble, their website. Mm-hmm. And again, talking about that market, though, Amazon's got it. People tend to go to Amazon. You can get the Kindle version. Uh-huh. You can get the iBook version. That would be on iTunes. Yeah. Or Barnes & Noble. But the Amazon sales, they just have the market right now.
Yeah, they do a lot of neat things, too. Do you have audio versions of these? I know you have them on one.
I got it on all three.
Oh, okay. There you go. So you get the coaching along with the tongue twisters.
Exactly. And those are moving fast. And, you know, my first book, which I've never done an update on, You Can Bank on Your Voice, that audio book does really well, and the Kindle does well too. And it's just amazing that, you know, the prices have changed in terms of what we get paid for work. Back when I wrote that book, a demo was like 2 minutes. Now it's like a minute or less. And yet the book still sells because the foundation is still the same. Mm-hmm. And, of course, you got a lot of great anecdotal stories in it, and it's almost like a nostalgic look back in 2004 on a great time in voiceover, and it was one of the first voiceover books out there.
Yes, it was. I remember that. Well, Rodney, if there's one thought you want to leave our listeners with, what would that be?
The one thought I would leave everyone with is this. Don't be afraid to take a chance. Don't be afraid to step out and try whatever it is that is bubbling inside of you. Whatever you have that is just wanting to get out, let it get out. Because if it just stays in, we will never know about it. And we will never, ever be able to enjoy this great thing that's bubbling inside of you. So I encourage everybody at this moment, as you have listened to this podcast and we have come to the end, I want you to say that based on what I just listened to, I am going to pursue my dreams.
Wow. That's fantastic, and we'll just end it there. Rodney, thank you so much.
Thank you, John. My pleasure, and I look forward to doing it again.
Yep, we will definitely do that.
All righty.
Be well.
You too. Bye-bye.
Uncle Frank, why don't you say goodbye to everybody for us?
Our program originates in the Boston studios. We hope you'll join us again. Until then, we bid you au revoir, keep your chin up, and the best of luck.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Voiceover Marketing Podcast. If you like this podcast, please subscribe to it at voiceovermarketingpodcast.com so you'll get notices of new episodes, and please share it with your friends and colleagues in the voiceover world. Also, it would be a huge help if you'd like this podcast and rate it on iTunes to help keep it near the top of the list. Feel free to share your comments and questions about this episode and future topics you'd like discussed at voiceovermarketingpodcast.com. And if you'd like more information on one-on-one coaching where we focus on growing your business, feel free to drop me a line at my cyber assistant's email address at mike@johnmelly.com. Thanks for listening. Now go out there and share your voice with the world.